Assalamualaikum students. You are welcome to SPSC e-lessons. I hope all of you are fine and doing good. As in the last lesson, we have seen reactions of metals. And we saw that some of the metals react very violently, some react slowly, and some do not react at all. So in today's lesson, we will make a table which will do a comparison between different types of metals on the basis of their reactivity. So we call this as the reactivity series. Before heading towards our topic, let's see these sight words. League table. What is a league table? As you would have seen the Super League or Premier League matches, and you would have seen that on the basis of their scores, the teams are arranged. So similarly, on the basis of the reactivity, we arrange the metals in the form of a league table and we call it reactivity series. Reactivity series is a series in which we can see that which metals are on the top, they are highly reactive, and the ones which are at the bottom, they are either unreactive or very less reactive. Then is the displacement reactions. On the basis of this reactivity series, we apply it to determine the displacement reaction, that whether an element or a metal is able to displace the other metal or not. Ores. Metals are extracted from the earth. They are not in their pure form. Either they are in the form of minerals or they are combined with other elements and we call them as their ores. These can be their oxides, sulfides, or any other mineral of that metal. What is reactivity series? Reactivity series is a series or a table, or we can say a league table, in which metals are arranged according to their reactivity. The ones which are highly reactive, they are put at the top, and slowly the reactivity of the metals decreases as we move downward. As we have studied in the previous lesson that potassium, sodium, calcium were highly reactive. They used to react violently with the water and with the acid as well. So we should not even put them inside the acid because the reaction is this much violent. So they are supposed to be on the top of the series. Similarly, we also studied that silver, gold were unreactive with the water, with the acid, so these should be put at the bottom of the reactivity series. Here is the reactivity series. As I have told you that potassium, sodium, calcium are most reactive, so potassium is the highly reactive and it is put at the top of the table. Now you can see that these three metals are extremely violent in the acid. They are violent with the cold water, and they also burn in air and oxygen. It means that they react with all the three elements or the substances. Then see other metals: magnesium, aluminium, zinc, iron. Along with these three, they burn in air. They are all reactive with the air, but these lower elements or metals, magnesium, aluminium, zinc and iron, tin and lead, they react with steam and their reactivity decreases down the group. It means that magnesium's reactivity is highest among these five and tin's reactivity or lead's reactivity is the lowest. Same is the case with the acid for these six elements. Then see tin, lead and copper. When in air, they form oxide on their surface. After the oxide is formed, the reaction with the air stops over there. No further reaction takes place because the oxide acts as a protective covering for the rest of the metal. Then with water and acid, I have told you about these elements. Copper show no reaction with water and acid. It only forms its oxide in the presence of air or oxygen. Then see silver and gold. They do not react with air, water or acid. It means that these two are highly unreactive metals. This reactivity series is very helpful whenever we want to see the reactions of metals, or if a metal is chosen for making something, so we see that whether it is reactive in this environment or not, it is suitable or not. There are some metals which sometimes do not show their true reactivity because in the presence of air an oxide is formed on their surface. For example, aluminium, it forms an oxide on its surface and which prevents further reactivity. Let's see the application of reactivity series. For that purpose, let's take an example. If we take copper sulfate in a beaker, it's a solution of copper sulfate which is blue in color, and we put some iron nails inside it. Then after some time, what will happen? The solution, blue solution, will turn green because now in the solution there is iron sulfate, and the nails will get a brown, reddish brown color on there, and a deposition of metal which will be copper. So what will happen in the reaction is that copper from the solution, copper sulfate solution, will be displaced by iron and it will become iron sulfate. The copper from the solution will get deposited over the iron nail. Why will this happen? Because in the reactivity series, iron comes before copper, or it is placed higher than copper. You can see the reactivity series on page number 34. You will see that after iron there are tin, lead, and then is the copper. It means that iron has a higher place than copper in the reactivity series, and iron can displace copper. But if we consider, can copper displace iron? No, it cannot displace iron because it is lower in the series. Every higher metal in the series can displace the lower metal in the series. This is what we call displacement reactions. So how can we define displacement reactions? A displacement reaction only takes place when the metal that is put into the solution is higher in the reactivity series than the metal in the solution. Let's see the application of displacement reaction, that which of the metal can displace which other metal. Here are some solutions: magnesium chloride, iron sulfate, lead nitrate, copper sulfate, and silver nitrate. And here are the metals: magnesium, iron, lead, copper, silver. Their sequence is same as that in the reactivity series. Now we will see that which of these can displace the other metal present in the solution. These chloride, sulfate, nitrate are the non-metallic ions in the solution, while above written are the metals: magnesium, iron, lead, copper, and silver. So every metal, remember that every metal which is present higher in the reactivity series can displace the lower metals. For example, can magnesium displace itself? No. Can it displace iron? Yes. The downward arrow is showing displacement. Can it displace lead? Yes. And copper? Yes. Silver? Yes. Can iron displace magnesium? No, because magnesium has the higher position. Can it displace itself? No metal can displace itself. Can it displace lead? Yes. Can it displace copper? Yes. Can it displace silver? Yes. Then is lead. Can it displace magnesium? No. Iron? No. Lead itself? No. But copper? Yes. And silver? Yes, it can, because these two are lower than lead. Then is copper. Can it displace magnesium, iron, lead? No. Can it displace itself? Not at all. Can it displace silver? Yes, of course. There is silver. As you see, it is at the bottom. So can it displace any of the above metals and itself? No, it cannot displace any of these and nor itself. So this is how we apply the reactivity series, and we come to know that which of the metal is able to displace which of the others. Now there comes a question that from where do we get metals? So we get them from the earth, but how do we get them and in what form do we get them? In earth, all the metals are not present in their pure form. Only silver and gold and silver can be found in their pure form, while all other metals which are more reactive, they react with the oxygen, sulfur, or any other ion present inside the earth or in the environment. They react with it, and they are found in the form of their oxides or sulfides or chlorides or any combined with any other non-metallic ion. So we call these combinations as ores, and we extract the metals from earth in the form of ores. Then we purify these ores to extract the pure metal. Some of these ores are shown on page number 37 in your book. The first one is hematite, which is an iron ore, and it is mainly iron oxide. Mainly iron oxide means there can be some other compounds as well, but the major portion is iron oxide. Similarly, bauxite is the aluminium ore, which is mainly aluminium oxide again. Then is the copper pyrite, which is mainly copper sulfide. So it is the copper ore. Then is magnesium chloride. It is not actually the ore, but it is the salt which is found in seawater, and maximum of magnesium is extracted from the salt. How can we obtain the metal from the ores? Because ores are not pure. So firstly we mine the ores from the earth, and then we extract the metal from that ore. After extraction, we use the metal in different commercial purposes, but as you know, these are the natural resources and they can run out if we use them excessively. So how can we save them? Firstly, we should make the economical use. Secondly, the very good thing about metals is that they can be recycled. So recycling of metal can help us in recovering the metals which are depleting from their natural resources. Let's see how the decision is taken for mining an ore. Before deciding that whether to mine an ore or not, following things are considered. What are these? Number one is the amount of ore, that whether this ore is in sufficient amount to be mined or not. The cost of mining, that how much does it cost to mine an ore, is it affordable or not? Similarly, the cost of extraction and purification of the metal. Then the market for that metal, is there a large market for it or not? Then is the percentage of the profit, that how much profit can be gained if we mine, extract and purify this metal, and what is the effect of this extraction on the environment, is it environment friendly or not? Then we decide that whether we can mine an ore or not. So this was all about this assignment. I hope this video will help you solving the assignment number 6. See you in the next assignment. Till then, take care. Allah Hafiz.